Number 3, let's ask another question. How are we to love? Well, back in John 13, Jesus said, love one another even as I have loved you. There's our answer. We are to love one another as Jesus has loved us. Now think about that old commandment, Leviticus 19:18. Love your neighbor as you love who? Yourself. In other words, love your neighbor just as much as you love yourself. Neighbor love is different from this new commandment to love. Neighbor love is a love within limits. I only love you as much as I love me. When we get to this other kind of love, we're going to see that it destroys every parameter around it. But this first kind of love is a neighbor love. I love those as much as I love myself. And so if I have a plate of beans and you're going hungry, I go over to you and I give you half of my plate of food. I'm loving you as I love myself. If I've got 2 coats and you don't have any, I give you one of my coats. Folks, in my experience, the church has never really even measured up to this kind of love. I mean, if you look around and be honest, do we love each other like that? Do we love other people in the church as much as we love ourselves? No. We're selfish and we're self-centered, and most of the time we can live quite well just kind of neglecting and ignoring people with need right around us. This is the bottom line kind of love, the lowest level of love that we ought to be concerned about. This is Old Testament, Old Covenant type of love. But it's not the kind of love Jesus is talking about. In fact, we ought to be offended if other people in the church only love us this much, because that means they're treating me as a neighbor and not as a brother, not as a family member. Okay. Well, let's talk about the kind of love we are to experience and give to one another. Jesus said, love one another even as I have loved you. So if you were trying to put a one-word label on that kind of love, what would come to mind? Sacrificial. Sacrificial love. This is a love with no limits. The other one had limits. I love you as much as I love me. Is that how Jesus loved when he went to the cross? No. Jesus forgot all about himself and his rights and his comfort and his conveniences and what he would have preferred. Remember, he said, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. In his humanity, Jesus did not want to go through the horrors and the terrors of having God's wrath poured out on him at the cross. But he did it. He let self die. And he went to the cross, and this is love without limits. It's a sacrificial determination to do another good. Remember, Paul says in Galatians 2:20, I've been crucified with Christ, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So this is the kind of love when self is gone, self is crucified, and I'm not gauging my love by how much I love me. Self is out of the picture, and I'm just giving you myself. I'm giving you the whole plate of food, and then myself. I'm giving you all my coats. Whatever you need, it's yours because you're my brother. You say, well, man, that's a really high level of love. I don't know if I've ever had that kind of love before. Well, this love is possible through the power of the Spirit for the church of God to experience. In fact, when we go to 1 John chapter 3, we're going to find out that John is instructing the church to love just like Jesus loved. Look at this, 1 John 3:16. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Look around at people in this room. Would you die for those people? Would you take a bullet for them? That's the kind of love we are to have for each other, willing to lay down our lives for each other. See, Christianity is not just this light, frivolous little thing. Christianity is intense. The commands that Jesus calls his people to are intense, sobering, solemn, and yet joy-filled and life-giving. The Lord wants us to be willing to lay down our lives for each other. He wants us to step up our relationship to each other. Wouldn't you agree? We can be content to kind of live our own private lives. That's not New Testament Christianity. When we kind of live our own little lives and nobody knows about us, and we slip in at the end of it, late, we go out early, nobody gets to know us, we don't disclose ourselves, people don't know our needs, we don't know their needs, and we're not actively pursuing sacrificial love on behalf of other people, that doesn't even count as New Testament Christianity.